Today we're going to be making our very own willow tree pattern plates. There's a story behind the original pattern and it's quite beautiful. Look at the plate first. It might look like a single image, but there's a whole narrative happening inside it. Before you carry on with this project, have a listen to the story in the link that I've posted. This will give you a background as to why we're doing what we're doing and using the designs that we're using. Right, now that you've listened to the story, we can start our project. So if you're looking at a round plate, the design of the story is going to move in a clockwise position around the plate, starting with the grand palace of the emperor. So on this right hand side of your plate, you can draw your pagoda, and a pagoda has kind of got curved roofs like that. Okay, they're quite grand, so you can make it sort of multi-tiered, a couple of levels high. That's up to you. I'm not going to draw too much detail now. I'm going to show you some pictures of each element so that you can have a good look at how to draw them. Here are some examples of what a pagoda looks like. Look at how they are tiered and multi-leveled, and how the roofs go out, curved at the sides. The Emperor's Palace is on this side of the plate, and this is where the story starts. It starts with the Emperor and his daughter, May, and his secretary or accountant, Chang. And if you watch the link that's attached to this video, you will hear the full story about how May and Chang fell in love, but the emperor had other plans for his daughter and had promised her to an old rich member of the palace, which she didn't really want, and so May and Chang decided to run away together. To stop May from running away, the emperor put up a fence. And so the emperor's fence is also included in the design of the willow pattern. And so you can actually add this into your own plate. And then the story continues, and it continues when May and Chang leave to run away. They run over the bridge, across the lake, and you can put some little figures here. Again, just have a look at the elements that I've included in the video to show you some close-up images of this part of the story. And they jump into a little boat. Okay, boats in China often have little, almost houses on them. They're like houseboats or fishing boats. And they rowed across the lake to another island. And on that island, you'll see on the willow tree pattern plate, there is another pagoda. Where they lived happily for a few years until they were discovered by the emperor. And the emperor sent his guards after May and Chang, and they went and burnt their house down. And in burning their house down, they then turned into the little doves. Now again, you will see the elements. So hard to draw, it's just basic shapes, so don't be too overwhelmed by all the intricacies. You will see how to draw the doves. These are really terrible pictures of doves, but what I'm wanting to show you is where all the elements are in relation to your design on the plate. So you can see quite clearly that the willow tree pattern story goes in a clockwise direction around the plate. So have a look at each element as you are drawing your plate, and make sure that you have all the elements of the story, because it's important. The story wouldn't be the story if it was missing one of the parts. Now, obviously, we need to remember one more thing. It's called the willow pattern story, and the willow trees are a huge feature in the story. So somewhere in your picture, you need to include what we call a weeping willow tree. Weeping willow trees are often on the side of water, and they're called weeping willow trees because they almost seem to hang down sadly as they touch the edge of the water. They have kind of feathery leaves, so you could do that in your picture. So you could put a couple of different trees around the palace. You could add in some willow trees, some basic bushes, and obviously when they went over to the island, perhaps there's another weeping willow tree. So this is a very sad love story, and the pictures and the symbols very cleverly and beautifully depict that. So just remember that when you're drawing your plate, that you get the full story in the correct order, going round in a clockwise direction. Now that we know the order of all the elements, you can start to draw your story onto your paper plate. It's always good to have a picture of the story nearby for reference, just to remind you of all the things you need to remember to pop into your story. Now that you've finished drawing your picture onto your plate, you can start to add some color. Now for this project, we only need shades of blue. I've used acrylic paint, watercolor paint, different shades of blue felt tip pens, and different shades of blue oil pastel. You can use whatever you have available at home, as long as you're using different shades of blue. Now remember, when you're mixing your paint, the more water you add, the paler shade of blue you will get. The less water, the darker shade of blue you'll get. I started by outlining using a felt tip pen all the fine details of my picture. Once I was happy with that, I then went on to add some paint. I used watercolor paint for this, but if you've got acrylic paint, if you just add water, it'll do the same thing. Finish off your plate by decorating the border. You can do this any way you like. I hope you've enjoyed learning about this wonderful legend. And next time you see a willow tree pattern plate, you'll know what it means. If you've enjoyed this project, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it.